Hello, one more guest here at the PowerShell Conference. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you very much, Thorsten. Nice to be here.
I guess you've been here before, right?
Yeah, I've been to multiple since Hanover, right? Attending a lot of the conferences over the years and yeah, really enjoying the experience.
Yeah. From my perspective, we're in Sweden. You're from Norway.
Yeah.
It's almost the same, right? So, but it's only 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
How far away from here is your home?
6-hour drive, yeah.
Yeah, at least you can go by car.
Yeah.
Or by train?
Almost home, I would say, yeah.
Almost. Does it feel a little bit like home being in the north of Europe, or is that not enough for a Norwegian guy? Not enough.
Oh, it feels like home, it definitely does. So, but I really enjoy that we can go around Europe, right? Get to experience new cities, new countries all the time. So yeah, really enjoy that aspect.
Yeah, people love it to go around, move from one place to the other.
Yeah.
And if you can afford it, yeah, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
But what I also like is that we had a lot of guests this year from Scandinavia. And if I say Scandinavia, I mean the whole thing, which is not typically correct, but all the northern states from Finland to Denmark.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So obviously, if we move a little bit closer, some locals are attracted to join for the first time.
Yeah, and that's great.
Yeah. So as you return from year to year to year, being a speaker, very experienced consultant, what's your take on this year's conference? Anything special, anything funny, anything that went wrong?
Nothing that went wrong except for maybe the weather with the bike ride. We had some bad luck there, but it was, no matter what, it was a great experience. We can laugh about it. It's a fun memory, right? But basically what happened was we were a group of 20, 30 people, I think, planning to go for this 30-kilometer or so bike ride. And then we saw some dark skies in the clouds and thunderstorms and the rain, and we just had to cancel midway. But regardless, it was a fun experience, yeah. You socialize, get to know people more, and yeah.
And you have something to laugh about.
Yeah.
If you look at the pictures.
Yeah.
For someone from the south of compared to Sweden, from the more southern part of Europe, in my case Germany, the weather change is very, very fast, very unexpected.
Yeah, it's like in minutes, it's just totally turn around. So yeah,
the weather. If you ever visit Sweden, don't trust the weather forecast. So get a rain jacket. So anyhow, what did you talk about this year?
I had 2 talks. One about in the hybrid space. I'm also a core maintainer on the Arc Jumpstart team, so I work a lot in the hybrid space. So one of my sessions was what options do we have to use PowerShell to automate in the hybrid world, right? Using Azure Arc as the vehicle, use PowerShell remoting via SSH, and all those different options we have in that space. That was the first session, and the second one was about Microsoft DevBox. It's basically a workstation in the cloud for developers that can be defined with infrastructure as code and winget and desired state. So yeah, it's topics that I'm passionate about. So it's great to be able to share my experience and also get feedback talking to people after the sessions. Great talks in the chat in the hallways during lunch. Always learn something new myself as well. So yeah, that's great.
We always chat a lot about the acceptance of all that new technology. It's very obvious that lots of vendors, they want to sell their stuff. They want to get the customers apply to the new subscription models. And if they don't want, they can also do some hybrid thing, but that also leads to hybrid costs, to be honest. So how's that in Norway? Are people addicted to all the new things, or are they more laid back and let's wait another year?
Yeah, very good question. I think it's very different from industry to industry, right? Some customers in the healthcare industry, the finance industry, power, energy supply, and so forth, they of course have more restrictions, more security requirements. So for those kind of environments, it's more hard, right, to adopt the cloud side of the house. But we also have a lot of opportunities in that space to do things air-gapped, for example, with PowerShell Universal. We heard something talking here today about using PowerShell Universal in an air-gapped environment. You have Azure Local Disconnected that is currently in preview, so you can run your own local Azure instance without being connected at all. So there are options that can be fit into the different scenarios. Yeah.
I remember that the Linux guys always complained about, we don't use that, we have SSH. Now that we have SSH, you're talking about Arc,
Yep.
they all use it. Or what's the next excuse? Not to touch PowerShell, not to tell all that Microsoft. What's their experience?
No, it's about having people being able to use what they are used to, what they are familiar with, right? So SSH on Windows should be great news for a Linux user or Linux administrator, right? So that they can use the remoting protocol they are familiar with. So that's what I see, that customers wants to use what they are familiar with. And of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, at the end, I think personally, the biggest advantage is that you don't have to discuss the firewall rules, because there is a huge acceptance in certain environments to allow port 22. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's a management port.
Exactly.
So
yeah. Who's that with the public sector? Is that different in Norway?
They are
in terms
all
of acceptance and hybrid?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure about all of the other countries, but at least in Norway, I feel that they are very upfront and trying to adopt the new methods of working, like GitHub Copilot adoption, for example. We have a major public sector customer investing heavily in that because they see the value. But of course, they have strict compliance, regulation, security requirements, but they make it work in the new era of cloud tooling. I think we are far ahead. I don't have anything to compare with in other countries, but at least that's my personal feeling around it.
Yeah, so you run into open doors.
Not everywhere, of course. There are some first movers, right? But when you get kind of those grounds laid up, but they can have gone through the compliance requirements and all of that, it's easier for others to follow along. I felt it was the same thing back in the day when Office 365 came, right? When first people had Exchange servers on-prem, some of the first movers got into using Office 365, hosting mailboxes in the cloud. And there was some critical point around 2013, 14, 15, where everyone adopted it. It became the new norm, right? So it's, first movers getting adoption, and then it kind of took off.
If we do one step back, all these new things, if I would ask you ISE or VS Code, what would be your answer?
Of course, I don't work in an environment where I'm restricted. I get that some people have to use what's available in box, but my personal preference, I don't have those restrictions. It's VS Code and using latest and greatest. So I use typically dev containers, code spaces when possible, because I have a Mac on my cabin, I have a Linux machine. At work, I use a Windows machine, so I can use the same dev box around the board, right?
This first question leads to the second question, and I think you already answered that. You have customers who stick to the ISE for numerous reasons.
Yeah.
Just as we use Notepad.
You have to use what's available.
I do ask because I think next year will we still talk about VS Code, because I think it was the boss of OpenAI. Someone said the next IDE will be artificial intelligence. What he's focusing on is that you actually do not need to focus so much on the editor, because all that groundwork can be done with the wink of an eye. Right. What's your take on that? Will something like VS Code totally change because the tool chain will be recreated from scratch? And if I'd be honest, I think, I don't see what comes out, but I think it will change a lot.
I think definitely in the GitHub Copilot space, or Copilots in general, the tooling might not matter, but at least for me, which uses VS Code, GitHub Copilot, I think the new evolution there with the new agent mode, right, that instead of just providing suggestions and code, it can actually do stuff in your code base. So I use this a lot when preparing for workshops or even presentations, to just use the agent mode, describe, have it look at my project, describe just what I want to do, and it just does it for me. And of course, with the new MCP server integrations that was talking about in the keynote here. That's how powerful that you have direct access to Microsoft Learn, the product documentation, so that you don't get those hallucinations, right? You get it directly into your own project. I use a lot of polyglot notebooks, so I combine code and Markdown, and then you just get whatever is relevant from the documentation into your presentation, and it's like watching magic happen, right? And also, when it comes to infrastructure, it can also hook into your Azure environment. Like in my talk about DevBox, it can start and stop my DevBoxes. It can create new DevBoxes. It can actually do things, and that's when it comes interesting, right? And then, of course, it's a lot of security concerns, but there are options there to control it. You can consent to each and individual call that it does. You can do accept for this session or always accept, so you have control. But I feel that this is very powerful. It's kind of the next level of integration with AI, and exciting times ahead.
Definitely. Do you think that the people in the future will have to learn less?
No, I just think it will become easier to learn, but you can't just take someone who comes straight out from the school bench, right, and put them in front of an AI. They have to still know the concept. They need to have knowledge of how the world looks like. What do they need to ask for? They need to know what to approve, because it's not perfect. Everything is not the way you want it to be. Best practices when it comes to error handling and whatnot, which is being talked about in this conference. So you still need to learn, but it's just much easier, I would say. If I had this tool chain when I started out in IT 20 years ago, I think it will be much easier, because you basically have a peer programmer right next to you. You can teach you on the fly, right?
Yeah, you start on the 20th floor, not on the base level.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
My favorite final question is always, if you have a wish free and you can organize next year or 2 years PowerShell Conference Europe, what would be your favorite city where we could host that?
Oh, that's a great question, which I did not think of ahead of time, but I think it would be good to go. I think my favorite would maybe go to Italy, to Rome. That's a place that me and my wife have been talking about going to. So if that happens, I can...
Would you also accept another Italian city?
Of course, yeah. Italy is great.
I assume Rome would be very expensive, right?
Yeah. But any city in Italy, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so maybe one day in Italy or wherever we will be, you might know when you see this. I hope to see you next year. Thank you, Jan.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.